And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. We apologize. On the air late. I am your host, Dave McHugh. We're broadcasting. Thanks to D3Hoops.com for the WBCA NABC studios. We hope you're enjoying the show. We hope there isn't any major problems with our stream. We are overloading our computer because we've had technical difficulties today. I can see the numbers awfully high. We hope there aren't any major issues. And we will continue to watch them. We also hope we can be on the air a good amount of time today due to several factors. We can go through the list of them. We have some difficulties with some streams, and we're hoping we can get those up and running, or some recordings that we've done, hope to get them up and running. If we have no ability to get our broadcasts on the air, or the interviews that we did recently, we will find a way to get them onto the site to supplement this, if that makes any sense. So there you go. I know we're overloading our computer. We shall see what happens. We'll try and survive, as it were. I was in Texas this weekend, where half of the show originates from. We were supposed to be live at 7 o'clock. I was going to be in front of you. But half of our show originates out of Texas. Had a chance to talk to Trinity women's basketball coach Cameron Hill. Got to talk to Southwestern's men's basketball coach Janson Hightower. We also got to talk to Lauren Hill's parents. And we did some other interviews that you'll hear at a later date here on Hoopsville. But nonetheless, a little bit of a challenge, apparently, with our video. Apparently, we came back, and all of our computers have decided to act in a different world. It's like literally we went into a different time warp. The one computer that we purchased recently that did Thursday's show without issues doesn't want to do today's show. And we're talking at 2.5 hours on Thursday. It did fine. 30 minutes today, it's not doing well at all. I know this is a sign of inside baseball. It's kind of why we're having some issues with the stream. But I think we're fine. We're just overloading our computer. So hopefully it doesn't affect you guys watching. But hopefully we find a desperate solution, basically. I'm waiting to see what one interview does here coming up. And if it does what we want it to do, then we will force the issue with the rest. If it doesn't, we may have to go back to square one. But nonetheless, you are watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Thanks to those at WBCA and NABC. Hold on a second. Got lots of material to talk about. Got to print that stuff up and get it ready, and here we go. But WBCA, I want to thank them, and the NABC as well. Got to actually touch base with those at the WBCA here this past week at the NCAA Convention in San Antonio. I'm looking forward to our partnership with them down the road. Top 25 will be voted on in the near future. My top 25 thing is rather thick. Got the chance to actually talk to some top 25 voters while I was in Texas as well. It's amazing how everyone's got different but similar opinions, all depending on what you want to talk about. It is absolutely crazy how everything is working out right now. But we're looking forward to seeing how this all shakes out. We do have a new top 25 coming out on Monday. There are going to be definitely some questions to talk about, things that need to be answered. On the men's side, for example, Hope losing to Alma earlier in the week. We knew about that. Big difference, though, is Alma not only beat Hope by 11, they went and spanked Calvin by 22. Talking to a couple voters there. And then they also beat Trine, by the way, by 7. Good week if you're an Alma fan. Suspect they're in the top 25. I'm sorry, Hope beat Trine by 7. I apologize. Let me rephrase this. Hope lost to Alma, and Alma beat Calvin. Hope, in the meantime, then went and beat Trine. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the only loss in the top 5. In Susquehanna took its first loss of the season, losing by 2 to Drew, the number 11 team in the country. Probably will still stay relatively ranked. Well-ranked, but still a loss. WPI lost to Babson early in the week. We saw that. Whitewater, we mentioned losing to River Falls. They then lost to La Crosse, lost 2 in a row. I leapfrogged Whitewater in my top 25. Looks like maybe not so much now, right? We shall see what happens down the road. Well, we know one thing, folks. I can get the interviews back in. It's just going to take a little bit of a load on our computer, so we apologize. But apparently the system wants to work in a different fashion than how it was supposed to work in the first place. I know we're we're leapfrogging around here a little bit on the topic at hand, but I just wanted to kind of give you an update. So we're going to take a little bit of a hit on the show a little bit here as we try and get these things fixed. So bear with us, working on it hard. We will get our Texas interviews back. But let's go back to the top 25. Also losing, we mentioned Whitewater losing 2. NYU lost to Emory and then beat Rochester this week. They also had beaten Hunter earlier in the week. NYU taking its first loss in conference, then winning against Rochester by 10. Tufts, and by the way, NYU's losing its first game, period. It just happened to be coming in conference against Emory. Tufts lost to Middlebury. Mount Union lost to John Carroll. That's not necessarily a bad score for Mount Union. It kind of hashes out how we saw that happening. Number 7, John Carroll beat number 19, Mount Union. Beat him by 13, 116-93. I don't think there's any surprise there. Roanoke lost again to Hampton City. I think we mentioned that on Thursday's show. If we didn't, I apologize. Scranton had a horrible week, lost to Merchant Marine, and then lost to Catholic. They were losing by 24 to Catholic, came roaring back, and then Catholic put them in their place and beat them by 11. We mentioned North Central losing to Augustana. They at least came back and beat Illinois Wesleyan. It'll be interesting to see what voters do there because Augustana beat North Central so badly. Bethel, outside of votes, lost to Augsburg. Trine lost to Hope. Hiram lost 2 games. Oswego lost 2 games to Brockport, which we showed you the buzzer beater for that. Then lost to Plattsburgh and to Potsdam. Senior class there in Oswego, not really showing their colors. They're kind of falling apart here. Cortland lost to Geneseo and then lost to Plattsburgh after beating Potsdam in the middle, so Cortland's off to a rough start. We'll have a little bit of news on Geneseo coming up. Northwestern lost to St. Scholastica. Not a great loss if you're a Northwestern fan, which I have been in the top 25 poll. Delaware Valley lost to Wilkes. Chapman lost to both Laverne and Occidental before finally beating Claremont Mudscript. St. John's lost to St. Thomas. Not a surprise, but at least came back and thumped Augsburg. Virginia Wesleyan, Wesleyan had a rough week, losing to Amherst and to Trinity. Colby lost to Williams. Swarthmore lost to Hopkins. Swarthmore's lost 3 games, and if they hadn't beaten Dickinson, and they beat Dickinson good, and they hadn't beaten McDaniel, they would have been on a tailspin. They had lost 3 in a row. Stevens Point lost to Oshkosh. Stevens Point is 8-7. I'm not sure they're going to get any more votes. Albertus Magnus, this is a game everybody was talking about on the boards at least. Albertus Magnus lost to Johnson and Wales, 113-58. That is on the men's side. Back over to the women's side. Really fascinating what's going on right now. Excuse me as I try and tweet out to the world that we are on the air. Hope you're enjoying the show. Don't forget, by the way, on Twitter, you can join us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Got a couple minutes. We got to get going because we're running behind. If you've tuned in because you thought we were going to be showing some of the interviews from Texas, we apologize now. They will be coming now later in the show. They're the ones we're having problems with. Really don't have a clue why we're having problems with them. Plain and simple. Really have no idea. Because the longer way of doing the videos is working. The short way, the real way to do it, was not. Whatever. We will talk to Cameron Hill from Trinity, Texas, women's basketball. We will talk to Janson Hightower from Southwestern men's basketball, and we will talk to Lauren Hill's parents. That's all coming up on Hoopsville later in the show. It was supposed to happen now, except for the Lauren Hill segment. We were already saving that. But now they will happen later. We have other guests coming up. We will get to those guests in just a moment. Let me quickly go through women. Whitewater lost to River Falls earlier this week. We mentioned that on Thursday. Muhlenberg lost to McDaniel. We mentioned that on Thursday as well. Wartburg had a horrible week, lost to Luther, and then followed up with a loss to Buena Vista. They're now 12-3 with 2 losses in a row. Stevens Point lost to Oshkosh in a big battle in the WIAC. Wheaton lost to Elmhurst. Trinity, Texas, lost to TLU, Texas Lutheran, on Friday, but then came back and handled Southwestern pretty good. I was at the Southwestern game. That loss to Texas Lutheran is them trying to figure out what they're going to do without their All-American. Lost their All-American in the game prior, the previous weekend at Centenary. Lost to an ACL. Career is over. But Trinity, Texas, still a darn good team. We'll talk to Cameron Hill coming up. Carnegie Mellon lost to Wash U today. Williams had a horrible weekend, lost to Colby and to Bowdoin. Whitman lost to George Fox. Really no surprise there. Lost by 16. Really can't hold that against them. And at least he came back and beat Willamette. Bowdoin lost in those receiving votes. St. Mary's, Minnesota lost. Montclair State lost yet again. Montclair State 11-5. Bethel lost to Augsburg. Mary Washington lost to Christopher Newport and then thumped Marymount on Saturday. There was a good rebound there for Mary Washington in a CAC race that's going to be crazy to watch. There are 4 teams in the running there. You could even argue 5. That's going to be fun to watch. Eastern Mennonite beat Randolph-Macon in women's basketball. Emory, horrible weekend for them, lost to NYU and to Brandeis. Marymount, as we mentioned, lost to Mary Washington. That's what we got going on there. As for other guests that we have on the show, the WBCA Center Court is coming up here shortly. We will be talking to Jessica Ott, the women's basketball coach at Milwaukee School of Engineering. Incredible story about her, incredible story about the team. The kind of ups and downs that they have gone, but they are off to a terrific start. We'll talk to Coach Ott, and we'll have some fun with some question and answers with her. Also, we'll go to men's basketball, and we will go out to Eastern Connecticut, talk to Bob Geithner, head men's basketball of the coach of the Warriors, talk about his team. They're 11-5 overall, 5-0 in their conference. They're walking away right now with the Little East, but I have had some struggles as well. We'll try and gauge how good the Warriors are this season, and then we'll head down the coast and go to Lehman. Lehman is head of the CUNYAC. This is a conference I thought Brooklyn would be in control of, but even Brooklyn said Lehman was a good team. We'll talk about Lehman with their coach, Steven Schulster, coming up on the show. Talk about how they're playing, how Brooklyn's playing, how Staten Island is playing. The CUNYAC, we said at the very beginning of the season, was going to be a fun race to watch. It was going to be better than we expected. Looking forward to seeing that coming up. This is my top 25 ballot this week. It is longer than normal. It's out to 19 pages. It could easily be 30 if we wanted to create it that way. Top 25 vote coming out next week, or on Monday, obviously. No major upsets at the top, as we talked about, et cetera, et cetera. Quickly about the NCAA weekend. Very, very good. Nothing really related to basketball. A couple of things of note that did come up is in the Issues Forum, which was on Friday. The Issues Forum is kind of where they kind of gauge where things will be down the road. They also talk about the legislation that is at the table for that year. And obviously playing and practice this season is in play. No questions about basketball. Found that interesting. Apparently a lot of the surveys came back. And what apparently came back was about 3/4 of winter sports coaches would like to see some kind of non-traditional season for themselves. We've talked about this before. It's kind of a September season, really just to kind of welcome the team to the school, get them acclimated, get them starting to practice on certain things, certainly nothing hardcore, and then get a later start to the preseason than they normally would get. 3/4 of Division III men's basketball, women's ice hockey, men's ice hockey coaches apparently interested in that. However, when you looked at the whole Division III, not as many. A small majority actually interested in non-traditional. So when you talk specifics to those coaches, very interested. When you talk specifics to everybody else, not interested. We'll see where that goes. Men's and baseball and softball are the only ones where anything was brought up. The ideas were overwhelmingly rejected. Told the subcommittee on playing and practice seasons to go back to the table, essentially. There's other things that they have. We'll see if basketball has anything moving forward. I've heard more and more coaches talking about maybe adding a non-traditional season. Again, nothing major, but it would affect the preseason. That could move forward as soon as next year. We'll keep an eye on that. Otherwise, nothing had to do with basketball directly. There were some issues about recruiting regarding social media that were voted down and voting down overwhelmingly. Basically opening up social media in 2 ways. One, allowing coaches to friend and to publicly communicate, and obviously direct message as well, on social media with recruits. That was overwhelmingly voted down. Basically, as it was said often in the weekend, the creepy factor. Students don't want the creepy factor of maybe having a coach kind of not actually stalking them, but just that weird feeling. And then the other thing that was voted down was the school being able to publicly say that they're following a recruit or looking at a recruit, saying, "Hey, we're looking at Andrew McHugh, and we really like what he thinks. We hope he'll enjoy coming to Catholic this weekend," or something crazy like that. Yeah, if anybody knows me well, that was a really weird sentence. That was voted down overwhelmingly too. But those were pretty much the only major things that were going on in terms that had any effect on basketball. whatsoever. I did get a chance, as I said, to go to Trinity University on Saturday to see some basketball. I saw the Trinity men and Southwestern men play, and then the Trinity women and Southwestern women play. At least I got to check off a great gym and see some good coaches and good teams in action. And again, we look like we will be able to get those interviews coming up. One of them has been done that I can tell here, and that's a good sign. We will get another one ready to go here, and we should have all three sooner rather than later, and we're looking forward to getting that up and running for you as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk WBCA women's basketball in the center court, and we'll talk to Jessica Ott. But before we go, there is one bit of news we did want to touch on that is certainly disheartening. It is a little bit hard to report, and so please forgive me if I can't handle it as well. But our hearts and minds are with those at Geneseo. Three students were found dead this morning in a house. It turns out those three students are women's basketball player Kelsey Anise. I hope I said her name correctly. Men's ice hockey player Matthew Hutchinson. Kelsey was 21 from the region of Geneseo. Matthew is 24, I believe, from he is from the area as well. He's also a member of the volunteer fire department, and also 24-year-old Colin Kingston, I believe, from Vancouver, but I may have that wrong. I think Matthew actually might be the one who is from Vancouver. I'm going to call up a different story that I know had a better take on these things. All three of them found dead this morning in a house. There are a number of things certainly behind the scenes that are being reported. We're not going to speculate, not going to report incorrectly. What we do know is, again, that Kelsey, 21, of Webster, New York, in that area. It is Matthew Hutchinson of North Vancouver, British Columbia. He was a hockey player, 24, and Colin Kingston, 24. Kingston apparently a former men's basketball player. All three of them found dead in the village of Geneseo today. Apparently, according to police, a knife was found at the scene. That is all that we have at this point to tell you about. Anise was a senior guard with the Geneseo team. Remember, this is a team that rallied around their teammate Sobolowski and her fight with a very rare health concern and a liver transplant. They are now dealing with the death of a teammate who played a season-high 13 minutes and scored 5 points against Buffalo State just on Saturday afternoon in a 52-43 loss. She was a education major with Spanish and also minoring in psychology. Obviously, a hockey player in Hutchinson. As we said, volunteer firefighter with Geneseo. He had scored the final goal in a 6-2 win over Franklin and Pierce on Saturday night. He was a geography major and a business studies minor. As for Kingston, Kingston was a former student. We don't know the implications. He is a men's basketball player. There's a lot of talk of what may be going on. We apologize that we can't give you more. We don't have more to say. We're not going to report anything that we've heard behind the scenes. It's not the right thing to do. We will wait for police to say more about it. But our hearts and our thoughts are certainly with the Geneseo community. The game against Cortland on Tuesday. The games against Cortland on Tuesday have been, let's say, postponed. They may be made up later. We do not know. This is the second tragedy in the SUNYAC this year. Remember, New Paltz had a tragedy earlier this year. Luckily, no deaths in that tragedy, but certainly a men's basketball player who's fighting to return to the court. But in this case, a death of a women's basketball player, a death of a former men's basketball player, and a death of an ice hockey player at Geneseo. Incredibly tough news. We're very sorry to hear that. And our hearts, as we said, go out to the community. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will get back to Division III basketball. We will get back to talking to coaches. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com and from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
I'm a current Division III student athlete, and I remember how intimidating the first year of college can be.
So if you're a first-year student athlete and nervous about coming out as LGBTQ, I pledge to stand by your side as your ally.
If you can play Division III.
We are Division III student athletes, and you can be too. If you can play in Division III.
I'm a current Division III student athlete, and I remember how intimidating.
Every basket and every stop, the skill of elite student athletes will be on display. The sights, the sounds, the intensity of an NCAA championship. It all comes down to this moment, and the winner takes it all. Be there to share the experience with your family and friends. The 2016 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 18th and 19th at Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. Visit ncaa.com/tickets to score your championship seats today.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. From the WBCA NABC studios, I want to thank our partners at the Women's Basketball Coaches Association and, of course, the National Basketball Coaches Association as well for their support of this show. That support clearly reiterated this past weekend at the NCAA Convention, where we taped a few things for the upcoming Hoopsville Marathon as well. We hope you'll enjoy those coming up. On January 28th, it'll be part of the Hoopsville fundraising efforts. All of that to look forward to down the road. If you have any questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. We apologize for any technical difficulties that we may be having, though according to our reports, you aren't experiencing them. But if there's any breakup or anything and it's not on your end, and it is on our end, we apologize. Our computer's a little overmaxed here. We'll only be overmaxed for a short and more period, maybe less than a minute, and then we'll kind of go back to kind of running the way we are. We already have had to push our interviews from Texas back to later in the show, but we will get them on the show, we promise. You will hear from Cameron Hill from Trinity. You will hear from Janson Hightower from Southwestern. You will hear from Lauren Hill's parents, all coming up here on the show. Thanks to the WBCA coming on board, we now have the WBCA Center Court. This is a chance we get to talk to coaches out there in the women's basketball community who are doing great things, not only on the basketball court, but off of the court as well. And for this one, we found one that maybe is kind of hiding in the weeds, maybe. This team isn't exactly jumping out on everybody's radar, but they're having a terrific season right now after a tough start. And this is a program that has certainly been rebuilt a few times by their head coach. So we go to the Hoopsville hotline, and joining us on the WBCA Center Court is Jessica Ott, head coach from Milwaukee Engineering. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thanks very much, Dave.
I appreciate you taking the time to join me, especially a little bit last minute, a little bit behind the scenes secret there. First off, congratulations, 11-4 on the season. We'll get to the significance of those numbers in a bit. But you're having one of those seasons yet again that, if you look at your history, you've been building towards for a bit.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, we were, I think, 2 wins, and I was actually a softball coach doing dual roles, and I finally cut out the softball part and was able to focus really on my true passion of coaching women's basketball. And we've kind of built one class at a time, and our seniors this year have really done a great job, and we've just been improving class by class.
It is certainly a terrific job, and you're right. Building, we quickly look back, and you were 20-7 last season, 13-13 the year before, 2-22 the year before that. That was kind of something that had happened in the past, but as you said, once you kind of refocus just on the basketball side, which is honestly is not that uncommon in Division III, and certainly one of the more difficult things to do, to be a dual coach. Things have moved in that direction. Obviously time management and being able to focus on one team is certainly the biggest change, but what outside of that has been the biggest change in the difference in coaching?
Well, obviously time management had been huge. Recruiting was really difficult doing the dual sports,
sure.
But
basically I took all of them, didn't I?
Yeah, kind of. Really it was, time management was huge into our success, and obviously recruiting. I have a great assistant coach who helps out with that, and so I think that's part of our turnaround.
It's a program that, as a story on your site says, has humble beginnings. First 10 years averaged about 3 or 4 wins a season. This seems to be, from the outside, like a program that has taken on a newfound respect for itself. It's found a way to motivate itself and said, you know what, we can be good. Last year's 20-7 mark, certainly a sign of that, and this year's 11-4 mark at this point in the season, I think further shows that off. What's the mentality in the locker room?
Well, the mentality has been great. They are hungry. We talk about that. We take one game at a time. Like I said, our senior leadership, our juniors, all the way down to our freshmen are just super motivated. They're excited. We started off the season 0-4, but we wanted to test ourselves against some really respected schools such as WashU, Chicago, Lake Forest, obviously Wisconsin Lutheran in our conference, and it showed that we can compete with those top ranked opponents, and they've really kind of bought in, and we've kind of starting to find ourselves.
That's the thing is, listen, you guys were picked to finish third in the conference, so the conference certainly respected the fact you were coming off a 20-7 season and had some really good talent, but you went out there and decided to test yourself. You only lost by 9 on the opening day at Chicago. You then lost, unfortunately, Nancy, had her team on all cylinders in the second game. And beat you guys 64-40. WashU beat you at Chicago. And then obviously that funk went into Wisconsin Lutheran, who got you by 6, and then you lost by 5 to Lake Forest. But it's almost like there's a switch. You've won 11 straight since then, and you've been playing very good basketball. You've been in control of most of those games. You've only had a handful of close ones. How hard was it to forget that start and then start rolling?
Well, I think we've started to find ourselves. We have 8 new faces on our squad of 14. So, I only really had 6 returners that saw, obviously, quality, lots of minutes. So those first 4 games, I think we were still trying to find ourselves, and we went in overtime versus Lake Forest, and then, Wisconsin Lutheran, who's been just a powerhouse in our conference. And, they were, beating some ranked teams early on, and to lose by 6, I think that was kind of, hey, we can play with a lot of top teams.
Talking to Jessica Ott here, the MSOE, Milwaukee School of Engineering women's basketball team, 11-4 on the season, and 9-1 in conference, coach. And obviously you play a lot of conference games. And so certainly getting that one loss of Wisconsin Lutheran behind you and rolling from there and beating the Alvernos, Edgewood, Dominican, Marion, Concordia, Chicago, and Concordia, Wisconsin, Aurora getting the win again against Chicago. Those are certainly key, but we're running right back into the lion's den, as it were. Wisconsin Lutheran's your next game. Benedictine's your next game after that. Obviously, 2 of the teams that are at the top of this conference. The test gets real now.
It does, and and we got to show up every single game And, Lakeland came to our place and gave us a game, and Concordia Chicago came to our place right after the New Year. And, we battled. I think we got some luck on our side. Not sure we should have truly won those games. But I think, like I've continued to say, our leadership has been really great. And then heading into the second half of our season, Wisconsin Lutheran on Tuesday. It's a big game at their place, which is really tough to play. And, we play the next top 3 teams in our conference. And, it's going to test us.
Sure.
And I think we're excited for that test, but we got to show up every day.
WBCA Center Court, we will talk about what you do besides just on the basketball court, but I want to finish up with your team before we forget about them in a sense. But you only have 2 seniors on this squad. This is a scary team for the future, obviously, but talking about this year, you have Holly Denfeld, the junior, leading the team at 18 points a game, nearly 10 rebounds a game. She's at 9.5. Certainly that's nothing to shake a stick at. She also has 2 assists a game and 2 steals a game. Megan Kroll, the senior, 12.5 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game, 4 assists a game, 3 steals a game. Just those 2 alone have enough stats to give a whole team a nice day. And we don't want to forget about Lizzie Hilby at 8.2 points a game, Margaret Pugh 6.1, both juniors, and you have a freshman in there, Jamie Sponbar, the freshman, at 6 points a game. But those 2 at the top, they seem to be the 1-2 catalyst that this team's really thriving on right now.
Absolutely. Megan Kroll, we ask her to do absolutely everything for us, such as scoring, dishing, steals. She really does it all. In our practices, I tell her, I'm like, she's missed deflections. She gets so many deflections into steals, and, early on she struggled with layups. She tore her ACL a couple of years ago on a layup, and she's really gotten a lot of confidence, and, our team really rallies behind that. And Holly Denfeld, she's I think one of the top post players probably in the country, and she really does everything. Like, the other day, you don't see your point guard leading you in scoring and rebounds, and then your center leading in assists. I mean, whatever it takes, this team does, and those really, both of those players are really our workhorses, and our team rallies around them. Now that you've got these tough opponents, obviously coming back, in some cases maybe the first time, but sometimes the second, and obviously the top of the conference now rears its head. How much do you lean on these 2, or do you need to still provide some of the motivation to keep them on task? They really motivate themselves. We lean on them quite a bit. I can see right now, early on, we were kind of limiting their minutes and trying to get them rest. Versus Lakeland the other night, Megan played 40 minutes, and at one point I looked at her, I said, "Do you need a break?" And she said, "Absolutely not." Shook her head, said, "Forget it, Coach. She's in it for the long haul. She really wants to win a championship, and she'll do whatever it takes." So we lean on them quite a bit.
How tough is this race going to be down to the end, though?
How
tough is this race going to be?
Oh man, it is going to be a grind. It's really anybody's will to win. And like, you have to have some luck on your side. But we talk about it every day. It's, come to practice ready to compete, ready to get ready for for the next game. Make sure we're all doing the same game plan. It's really anybody's chance to win.
You clearly have a lot of respect amongst your players, considering what you guys have gone through. And I found there's a great article on your website posted back in July about you building the program towards success. And there's a great quote at the end of it, if you can forgive me, Coach, because I want to read it. It's from the school's athletics Hall of Famer, Sherry Gore. It says, "My junior year," by the way, it gives me a little bit of a chuckle because it's a heck of a story. "My junior year, we showed up for a basketball game with only 5 players because our center had a job interview in Florida." Isn't that truly YD3? We practiced a 4-man defense prior to the game just in case we got into foul trouble. when we ran out for warm-ups, the referees were asking where the rest of the team was. I was so proud of our team that night for playing the way we did, never giving up and leaving it all on the court. We only lost the game to North Park by 3. I paraphrased the end there. Clearly, to have a team be able to rally like that, even when you guys, I mean, those were some tough seasons back then. You have clearly a ton of respect from your players, and you clearly get players who want to play for the love of the game more than anything.
Yeah, here at MSOE, we're I think a very special, unique university, and when an employer asks for a job interview, that's their number one priority.
Absolutely.
And so we really preach that it's really important that you're here for a reason. That's to get your top-notch degree. Basketball is a very close, is right underneath your number one, and obviously families up there too. And so we really talk about what our priorities are. But they work. They come here. They know why they come here. We even cut practices short sometimes because I know it's, a really tough week of exams. So I think that's maybe somewhere the respect comes from, but they work their tail off academically and on the basketball court. So I love what I do, especially coaching these girls.
You certainly learned under some of the best. You played at Stevens Point. You're a Stevens Point Hall of Famer. I'm assuming you played for Shirley Egner.
Yeah.
Shirley is a pit bull. She doesn't let a game go. What did you learn from her that you still use to this day?
Well, we've run some of her offenses, her defenses, and they've worked. But I think the biggest thing is just the relationships that she has developed with her players, her alumni. That's where I have so much respect for her. I always go back and I work her camp. I've been doing it for, probably 18, 20 years. And
she gets the alumni discount, right?
Yeah, right. Just anything that any questions I have, I know I could call her up and say, hey, Coach, what's going on? And I still can't even call her Shirley. That's how much respect I have for her and what she's done for me.
I'm quite sure she's told you to call her Shirley, too.
Yes,
yeah.
She sure did.
I am sure. It'd be fascinating to see you guys in the playoffs and have to face off against each other, because I dare you to then call her prior and say, hey, do you have any ideas on how I can beat you? And just see what she say. And then tell her I put you up to it, just for the record. Listen, you also spend a ton of time off the court volunteering. You talked about being a dual coach for a long time. You spend time still at the YMCA there in town, coaching basketball and soccer. Where do you find the time, and what drives it?
Well, since I don't coach softball and do that whole dual sport thing, I try to volunteer and work with youth, and I think it's always important to give back. I talk with my team about giving back. And, we try to put on as many free sports clinics as possible. But,
wow.
Just getting youth excited about a sport, whether it's soccer, basketball, volleyball, I think it's really, really important. It gets them active. But I just, high-fiving little kids because they're enjoying playing basketball. It's awesome.
I can see it. I've got 2 young kids myself. My son picked up the basketball at a practice for the first time today, so I can see how that is a driving force. Just amazing the amount of time that is put forward by some coaches, and you certainly are right up there with that. Coach, if you don't mind, we want to have a little, maybe some fun. Some of these are rather probing questions in the sense of we really want to get to know better of you. At the same time, some of them are fun. To wrap up the segment, if you don't mind, a few semi-rapid fire questions for you. You ready?
Sure.
All right. First thing, what is it about coaching that's your favorite, especially in Division III?
Favorite thing. I think sometimes the bus rides and the conversations that you hear from your players.
Good and bad, I assume.
Correct.
The ones that they don't know you hear are probably the best.
Yeah, that's true.
What's your biggest pet peeve as a coach?
Oh, boy. My biggest pet peeve is them asking me after a game where we're going to eat.
Oh, because I can understand where that might be, especially after a loss.
Yes.
Yeah, like maybe they weren't. Yeah, I know where you're going there. Is there a now? Obviously, we've had a lot of rule changes this year, but is there a favorite rule or a nuance of the game for you?
I think the calling a timeout under a minute at the end of the game has really changed things. Sometimes, depending on what end you're on, it's made it very, very interesting.
In other words, defensively you hate it, and offensively you love it.
Correct.
And if you're Nancy Faye, you probably have about an out of bounds play now book that's about 500 pages long.
Yes, that's
true.
Very
nice. Is there any rule you would add, remove, or change? There may be a rule out there that you'd really love to see in the game, or there's a rule in the game that you want out, or there's a rule that's in there that you just want to adjust it. Not all three, just one in particular that fits one of those criteria.
Oh boy, gosh, there's probably so many.
I can understand that too. There's no wrong answer to realize.
Yeah, I know. Gosh, I would like to get rid of that 10-second backcourt violation.
Really?
Yeah.
You're the first ones who said that to me.
I think it's just because we're struggling against the press.
Oh, okay. So it's a personal thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Have you talked to opposing coaches and refs to see if you could get it removed on a game-by-game basis?
Not yet, but that's a good idea.
Oh, there you go. Let me know if it works.
All right.
Any pregame ritual or superstition you have?
Yeah, so I always write on our board, the dry erase board, and I always make a little squiggly mark and make sure that the marker comes off. As one time I used actually a Sharpie.
Oh.
And I didn't test it, so I ruined a board.
Oh.
So that's kind of a superstition. Now I always have to do it, and my assistant laughs at me all the time.
Even though you know darn well it's not a Sharpie.
That is correct.
Wow, okay. Someday I want to see someone to switch it out just to see you freak. Craziest travel experience?
Probably when we went to the Bahamas, and I get stressed out on I shouldn't say vacations, on team trips, and one of my players eventually had to watch my carry-on bag because I left it at the airport. Like when you get your boarding pass, I left my bag there. I had to go find it. Then we were in Bahamas, and I left it somewhere else, and yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't pretty, so that's kind of a crazy. Team trips are stressful, I think, for coaches.
Okay. I'm trying to imagine this player getting this assignment.
She was great. She just kind of watched my bag and made sure that it went wherever we needed it to be. So.
Oh, Becky, do me a favor. Just watch my bag, if you don't mind. It's just right. For the rest of the trip. It's right there. Okay. That might fall under both a combination of that and a superstition. How would your assistants describe you as a coach?
I would say he would think I'm laid back. And I say that because I don't get fired up a whole lot. I get that a lot as people are like, how can you stay so calm? And when I was younger, coaching 10, 12 years ago, I would scream at the refs and I would get nowhere with them. So now I'm very calm and, he would say I'm pretty laid back.
Okay. How would you describe yourself as a coach?
I would say I am very laid back. I expect a lot out of my players. I expect them to do well in the classroom. And when I mean business, I think my players know it.
Okay. And final question. When you retire, because all good coaches do, what do you hope people will remember about you as a coach?
Probably that I did the things the right way.
Okay. One last thing we forgot to mention, you're on the WBCA Coaches Poll Committee. You've got a vote coming up here this week. What's it like to be on that committee?
It's interesting. It's my first year, and you see a lot of upsets and people moving into the ranking and people dropping out, and one day I hope for us to be there. And I think it's a really great experience. You get to see what everybody else is doing around the country, so it's a good experience for me.
Great. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining me on the show, especially last minute. As many people don't realize, you helped bail me out here. I appreciate you taking the time. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I guess I just want to thank our fans. We have fans from all over the country, from Georgia, Florida, California, Michigan. Parents, I want to thank them and our alumni, and then MSOE for all their support. But I'm really excited for the rest of our season.
Well, congratulations on the start. I mean, it might have been a tough four games to start. 11-0 straight out from there is pretty darn good. But obviously, 2 big games coming up. We wish you luck. Look forward to watching the MSOE women's basketball team the rest of the season, and we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Take care. Jessica Ott joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline again in the WBCA Center Court. Want to thank our partners at the WBCA for helping us put this segment together. Want to thank Jessica Ott for taking the time to do so as well. Running a little bit behind, so we're going to get to break. When we come back, we will talk to who are we talking to? This is what happens. We will talk to, that's right. We're going to switch to men's basketball. We're going to go back to Connecticut, and we're going to talk to Eastern Connecticut's Bill Geithner. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Out of the WBCA NABC studios, more Hoopsville right after this.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
First year of college can be.
So if you're a first-year student athlete and nervous about coming out as LGBTQ, I pledge to stand by your side as your ally.
If you can play Division III.
We are Division III student athletes, and you can be too. If you can play in Division III.
I'm a current Division III student athlete, and I remember how intimidating the first year of college can be.
So if you're a first-year student athlete and nervous about coming out as LGBTQ, I pledge to stand by your side as your ally.
If you can play Division III.
We are Division III student athletes, and you can be too. If you can play in Division III.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built. College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
We liked it so much, we ran it twice. Welcome back to the Hoopsville, everybody, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC WBCA studios. We ran the NABC ad twice. The technical difficulties that we've experienced all afternoon since arriving back from Texas have precluded us from getting all of our ducks in a row, so we apologize for the double roll there. If you have any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Going to jump out from Wisconsin to Connecticut, and we're going to go women's basketball to men's basketball. Just a reminder to any of you who wanted to tune into some Texas interviews. They are coming up later in the show. We're going to go into overtime because we started late. But we at least know we're going to hear from Southwestern's men's basketball coach, Trinity, Texas's women's basketball coach. We're hoping to resurrect the Lauren Hill parents interview. Unfortunately, we are struggling with a video for whatever reason, but we'll continue to work on it until we just have no choice. But those are still to come on the show. We'll also talk to Lehman's men's basketball coach coming up here on Hoopsville as well. But let's talk Eastern Connecticut basketball. The team is not off to a start anymore. We're halfway through the season. They're 11-5 overall, 5-0 in the LEC, the Little East. Certainly playing some good basketball on a 3-game winning streak. But I know Coach Geithner, he probably wishes they were playing better basketball. So that's why we bring him on the show. Coach Geithner joins us on the Hoopsville hotline. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time as well. The Navy and Burgundy started the season 1-2. Tough loss to WPI. Tough loss to Johnson and Wales, though right now neither of those losses looking as bad as maybe people thought at the beginning of the season. Connecticut College tripped you up in mid-December, and then LaGrange and Amherst got you at the turn of the year. Again, LaGrange having a good year, and obviously Amherst having a good year, and you always play Amherst. This time you played at their place. Since then, 3-game winning streak. You had a 5-game winning streak in the middle of the season. That's the nuts and the bolts. How's the season from your point of view?
I probably would agree with you. I don't think we're playing our best basketball. I think we're growing as a team, trying to find our way a little bit offensively early in the season. And, I think we've worked some things out. The guys continue to work extremely hard on the defensive end, and I think that's something, we've prided ourselves on over the last 6 or 7 years. So as you mentioned, none of the losses are, all those teams are quality teams. I think we've challenged ourselves with our non-conference schedule, and, I think it's helped us. Obviously a few more losses than we had hoped for, but in the long run, I think it's going to help us come, Little East Conference tournament time.
The Little East is an interesting conference this year, and in the last few years, it's really kind of been all over the place. For lack of a better description. We can't really seem to get a pulse on it. Last year, you guys were 20-4 overall, 12-1 in the conference. You were 14-0 the year before, 12-2 the year before that. Basically, what I'm getting at is you've been leading this conference for the most part the last few years, and everybody else, the Western Connecticut's, the Keene States, Southern Maines, the Mass Bostons, et cetera, Plymouth States, have been trying to battle it out behind you. Do you have a sense that you guys have this conference right now? Not in control, but obviously comfortably where you want them, despite the fact that Western Connecticut's just a game back?
Well, I think we feel happy where we are after 5 games, being 5-0. But I think we also know the history of the conference and know that, the remaining 9 conference games are going to be very challenging and, ones that we will have to come out and, play extremely well to get by any of the upcoming opponents.
Tough start to that season. Again, you lose 2 out of 3. How do you keep the guys focused? Because after that, you won 5 in a row. You beat Ramapo, who's certainly a squad that's ever-changing. You beat a good Hartwick squad. You beat Hamilton, Southern Maine. And then you beat a very good Trinity squad.
No, I think those first couple weekends, we knew they were challenging games. I mean, WPI has done a perennial, power, consistently winning 20 games. We went into that game without Tarchie Brown, who was, our leading scorer. And, I thought we battled and we competed, but, we came up short. I think we learned, we came back. And then Johnson and Wales is a very, very talented team. So I think we, although we were 1-2 and probably a little frustrated internally, we knew, if we continue to come and work on a daily basis that, things were going to, quickly turn around and that we would be okay.
Are there high expectations for this team? I mean, I know I had you guys in my preseason top 25. You've kind of yo-yoed in and out of it. But for you guys internally, are there high expectations?
I think so. I mean, I think we're at the point now as a program And I think the kids expect to be successful, expect to win, want the challenges of those expectations. So, I think early on in the season, maybe, there was a little too much reading of the press clippings and seeing that we were 14th in the country. And maybe we got away from, doing some of the things that we expect to do on a daily basis. So maybe, as I said, I think those early season losses, maybe in the end will serve us well.
You have 5 seniors, I believe, on the squad, but certainly they're not the only ones who contribute. You actually have a very balanced squad. You have a sophomore leading the way in Tarchi Brown. You have a senior, is it Trashone Preston? Trayshawn Preston. I like that one better than how I came up with it. Trayshon's
we keep it simple and just call him Trey.
Oh, well, that's much easier. You're right. Trey Preston, 15.5 points a game. We should mention Brown was at 18 points a game. Both of them bring down about 4 to 3 rebounds. Hugh Lindo, huge double-double guy for you. 11.5 points, nearly 11 rebounds a game for you. He even hit 1 3-pointer that he shot. I like pointing those things out. Those are the 3 big catalysts, obviously, for you. And we should mention that Hugh Lindo is a junior. So you have a sophomore leading the way, you have a senior leading the way, and you have a junior leading the way. That's a nice balance.
No, we feel that we have a balance. We're continually trying to develop more of a balance. I think some of the unsung heroes, we basically have played, a 2-man rotation at our center spot, David Canny and Brandon Kaczynski, and they've both done a great job. And then Kevin Lamine is our 5th starter. And, Kevin is kind of our unsung hero. He gets the task of guarding the best offensive player on a daily basis. And, he really does, an unbelievable job for us. And then, we've developed, a pretty good size, deep bench. And, I'm happy with our group. We want to continue to come every day and get better. And, I think we're in a good place right now.
Obviously, a big game coming up against Western Connecticut. You will play them on the 20th. Which is Wednesday, and then you're going to be on the road at Southern Maine on Saturday. Southern Maine will be tough because it's a travel. Western Connecticut will obviously be tough, though it's at home because it's basically a battle at the top of the conference. Obviously, the game on Wednesday is not going to be forgotten by anybody on that squad. What do you need to do to get past Western Connecticut?
I think we need to play really well. Spending time today watching them, they're very talented offensively. They've got a couple big-time scorers. So, I think going back to what we really try to stress on a daily basis is just guarding, making it difficult for teams to score on us, give up no easy shots, and make sure we only give up 1. And then, offensively share the ball. So I don't think our formula will change at all. We kind of are what we are. And, it should be a great game because, Western is a talented team, and it's a rivalry game, so you kind of throw out the record anyway. So it should be a great game. Our students are finally back on campus. We start class on Tuesday, so it will be nice for our students to get back to a normal schedule.
Obviously, winning has become synonymous with you guys recently because you've made the NCAA tournament 3 of the last 4 seasons. You've played in some kind of postseason event. I believe it's been 6 straight seasons. You've won 20 or more games in all 6 of those seasons. What was the turning point? 08-09, you were 12 and 14. 09-10, you were 20 and 10. Obviously, that statistically is the turning point. But what was the turning point?
I think just trying to establish our identity, kind of our culture, and then making sure that we go out and recruit those student athletes that will buy into that identity and that culture. And I think it started those early years, and we had a nice a very, very talented group with Nick Nedwick and Jamie Cohn and Chris Robitaille. Those guys kind of started the turn, and I think winning becomes contagious. And we've had a lot of guys that have come through the program that have worked extremely hard on and off the court.
Talking to Bill, I said Bill. Bill Geithner. My graphics have been saying Bob, for anybody who's wondering what's going on. The technical difficulties apparently are in my head on top of everything else. Hamilton grad of 87 in his 14th season at the helm of Eastern Connecticut. If someone were to ask you what kind of style of basketball that you coach and that you run at Eastern Connecticut, what would it be?
I think we try to, play extremely hard on the defensive end, control the glass, and then get out and push the ball. I think we run, but, we run with a purpose. And then offensively, I think our jobs as coaches are, to put our guys in positions where they can be most successful. So we'll do that through a variety of motion and then some quick hitters. So, I think hopefully people take away when they watch us is there's a team that plays, extremely hard on the defensive end and play great team defense, and then are unselfish on the other side of the ball.
Hamilton alum, obviously you know a lot about Division III, but you came through the Division I ranks, most notably down in my neck of the woods, Loyola of Maryland, before coming up. What did you learn in the D1 ranks that you still use to this day?
I think just on a daily basis, to come and compete at practice. I think that's something that we try to, instill in our guys is that, let's come and compete and get better every day in practice. And I think you do that, being competitive, having competitive drills and competitive practices. So I think that's one thing I take away from, my Division I experiences.
Talking to Bill Geithner, despite the graphics, and it just changed. It is Bill Geithner. We fixed it. Certainly, you love Division III, and we can see it. What is it about the student athlete though that drives you still?
I just think working with student athletes that want to compete and want to get better, both on and off the floor. I think that's something that we really try to instill in our student athletes is that it's much more than the 94 feet. It's about, taking care of business in the classroom, reaching your potential, and then also giving back to the community, not only the campus community, but the community at large. So I think just, getting up every day and working with, highly motivated student athletes that want to be better, and just having an opportunity to work with them is what drives me.
How does this Little East shake out this year? If you guys weren't in the mix, who do you think would win this conference?
I think, as you touched on earlier in the conversation, I think it's really up in the air. I mean, I think there's so many teams, that can put together a week-long stretch of playing good basketball, come tournament time. I mean, Western is a game behind us. Plymouth State has played very, very well all season, and then you have, UMass Dartmouth, with the leading scorer in the conference and, an All-American Jordan Resendez. So, and then Keene State is, a team that won the tournament last year. Southern Maine is a tough out. I don't really know. I think it's going to be a great final 5 weeks of the season, and then that third week in February come tournament time, we're hoping certainly to get some home games that week.
Certainly the home games are key, and you guys certainly take advantage of the home crowd. And I assume this is an NCAA or bust type mentality. You guys want in.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think those are our expectations every year when we get together on October 15th is that, we're doing everything on a daily basis to get to the NCAA tournament.
Wrapping up here with Bill Geithner. Bill, I'm going to say, I know someone's watching going, he's got Bob on the graphics. I know, we fixed it. Bill Geithner joining us here on Hoops, so we appreciate him taking the time to talk about his squad, certainly playing good basketball, to say the least. And, Coach, before we let you go, when you do look at the fact that you've got Western Connecticut, Southern Maine, Keene State, Rhode Island College kind of alternating, you literally, the end of the season, go home, away, home, away, home, away, home, away, away. That's a little tough to kind of get into a groove with. How do you prepare the squad for that?
Well, I think our guys will be excited about that because, we've played 16 games, and on Saturday it was our fourth home game out of 16. So I think they'll take that home and away any day now. So,
sure.
I think we're excited to finally get some home games. As we talked about, we've put together a demanding schedule, and we traveled and we went on the road. So I think these last 5 weeks alternating home and away, we're all right with.
Yeah, I can see that. In that sense, you're right. I think that is absolutely no big deal in the grand scheme of things. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the show. Certainly great to see the team continuing to be good, tough. The Warriors obviously living up to the title. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
No, Dave, I just really want to thank you and your staff at Hoopsville for, spreading the word of Division III basketball and all the quality student athletes we have, playing the game.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate you giving me those kind words. I know I'll touch base with you sometime in the near future. I'm sure we'll be talking about the Warriors the rest of the season, and good luck.
All right, thanks. Have a nice night.
You too. Bill Geithner joining us here from Eastern Connecticut. Appreciate him taking the time. Coming up next, we're going to talk to, I should point out again, big game coming up on Wednesday against Western Connecticut, a game to watch if you are a Division III fan. Coming up, we're going to talk to Lehman men's basketball. Steve Schulster will be joining us on the show. Now, don't forget, we still have 2 interviews. Again, we started the show late tonight. We started at 7:30 Eastern time due to technical difficulties. Coming up, we still have our interview with Cameron Hill, women's basketball coach at Trinity U, and Janson Hightower, the men's basketball coach at Southwestern. Those are still to come here. Trying to get the Lauren Hill parents interview. The video is not cooperating with us. Worst case, we will at least put that out as its own entity somewhere down the road this week. If you have any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. I want to thank Jim Goll for listening to the show and emailing us. Also, we talked about the Geneseo situation at the beginning of the show. At the end of the show, we will have an update and a word from one of the coaches who reached out to us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. From the WBCA NABC studios, we'll have more Hoopsville right after this.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference. For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Division III allows you to be able to give yourself to other things. Not even just participate in them, but really get involved with them if you want to.
There's a lot of interaction. It's not just sitting back, taking notes. You're actually doing hands-on things and better preparing yourself for your major.
Choosing a Division III school, I've had the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and to be more involved on campus.
Division III in athletics, affords students the opportunity not only to participate in intercollegiate athletics at a competitive level, but also gives them the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport and outside of the academics on the campus.
And to have opportunity to have time to join clubs and being able to play basketball, it allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Division III.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. Double rolled another interview there. This is the technical difficulties are rearing their head ugly here today, but we appreciate you sticking through. We will clean a lot of these up. Now that we're pretty much going to be at home base the rest of the season until the end, we can get some of these bugs kind of cleared out. Everything was working fine last week, and now we've got bugs. So we'll figure everything out. We apologize for any of the technical difficulties, but we appreciate you sticking us through. You are listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC WBCA studios. Appreciate you taking the time. If you have any questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Apparently those technical difficulties really are rearing their ugly head in my head as well, because I have been saying the last name of the next coach completely wrong for probably most of the show, completely making up names at this point in time. So we'll make up their record too. They're undefeated. Yes, the Lehman Lightning are undefeated. Yes, I'm completely kidding, folks, obviously. But in the meantime, obviously, they are having a good season at 12-4, 7-1 in the CUNYAC. This is a conference we said at the beginning of the season was going to be really, really good, especially to watch, and it is clearly living up to that, because that 7-1 is certainly respectable. But there's a whole host of teams behind them. Brooklyn at 6-2 in the conference, 13-3 overall. Staten Island 6-2, 12-4 in the conference overall. Baruch, who's been playing spoilers, back there. CCNY is back there. This is an interesting top of the conference in the Atlantic region that maybe not everybody appreciated was going to be part of the equation, as it were. So joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is the head coach for the Lehman Lightning, Steve Shulman, joining us on the show. It is Shulman, by the way. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Hey, Dave. Great to be on.
Appreciate you taking the time. 12-4. Listen, this is a great mark. I mean, middle of that season, you rattled off, what was it, 8 straight? After starting a little bit rough with a 1-2 start with losses to Misericordia, and at the time, what seemed to be a really good William Patterson squad. I think they're still good, but I just mean without distractions. And then you lost a tough one to a really good Buffalo State squad, and you lost one to a really good Staten Island squad. Outside of that, you've been beating teams and playing well. Is this what you expected?
Yeah, I really thought in the beginning of the year we were going to have a really good team. I have outstanding senior leadership with Sean Miller and Orlando Minot, my 2 captains and probably my 2 best players. And those guys are just so engaged. It's almost like 2 more assistant coaches. And I knew with those guys we were going to have a good season.
Do you have to pay them extra for being those assistant coaches for you?
That's what makes it so special, Dave. They just do it out of their own heart, and they want to win more than anybody.
Yeah, they don't realize it till after the fact, right? Obviously, I see you at the NCAA Final Four in Salem all the time in Division III. Maybe not every year, but I know I've seen you quite often there. I know that coaches like yourself are always trying to make your program and your conferences better. This CUNYAC is better this year. This is probably the secret in the Atlantic region this year. What is it that you've learned in Salem or have heard from other coaches, or that the coaches in the conference in general have figured out that has changed the dynamic a little bit, at least made the conference a little bit top-heavy?
Yeah, well, I think it's a combination of a couple things, Dave. First of all, with the skyrocketing tuition costs of the private schools, over the last 5 to 7 years, the CUNY schools, we've just been able to attract much better quality student athletes who want to stay home, save the money, and they've seen the quality of ball go up. And then I think you combine that with, our whole conference has gotten together as coaches, and we felt the last couple of years, Brooklyn not getting in last year, and the College of Staten Island 2 years ago, that things just weren't right. And we really worked on our scheduling to make sure we get, everybody from the bottom to the top is scheduling correctly. to shine a light on our conference.
That's an interesting statement there, because I'll talk to some and they'll say, well, I'd love to have my conference schedule better, but there's only so much I can do. Do you really have a consensus in the conference that you guys need to fix the SOS in whatever capacity that you can and improve that, even at the bottom?
Yeah, I think, well, it started 2 years ago. We thought the College of Staten Island, I've been in the QNAC for 16 years, and 2 years ago, the College of Staten Island was the best team I've ever seen in our conference. And they didn't get in the tournament. And I think from there, the coaches, we really got together and we said we got to do what we can do to change this. And we've had 2 postseason meetings to work on it, and I think it's paid dividends.
Well, let's be honest too, though, because Hunter, John Jay, York, and New York, who are technically at the bottom of the conference this year, Medgar Evers, CCNY, and Baruch, who are in the middle of the conference this year, they've all, at some point in time in the last 10 years, been battling it out at the top of the conference. So it's not like you're talking to programs who are perennial losers or perennially don't care.
No. I mean, we just played Hunter on Friday,
right?
And trust me, they're a quality team. It was one of the harder games we had all year. It just, from top to bottom, it's nothing like it used to be when I first started in QNAC. Everybody can play. Every game is a battle.
That's the interesting thing. And I talked to Brooklyn at the beginning of the season. And I got a sense by looking at them, seeing what you guys were bringing to the table, knew what Staten Island had, that this conference was going to be really different this year. Everybody in the Atlantic focuses a bit on the NJAC. And outside of that, they may not focus anywhere else. Obviously, the MAC Freedom kind of changes things just a little bit in this conference. And the CSAC has certainly gotten attention thanks to Cabrini in the past, but they've kind of faded. You guys kind of, I would say, quietly emerged, because I don't think a lot of people were looking at that. You've got a real good chance here at maybe a couple bids this year.
Yeah, no doubt. We think that right now our conference is the strongest in the region. We proved it. Staten Island went on the road and beat Stockton. We beat Western Connecticut. Baruch beat Gwynedd Mercy, and Baruch's in fourth. Baruch's an outstanding team, and they're in fourth place right now. So there's no doubt we feel that, again, assuming we don't beat up on each other too much, we play each other twice.
Right.
That we're a 2-bid lead this year.
Well, and that's the kicker. What is it? Staten Island, you've already played twice, and you guys, or am I getting this wrong? No, I've got it wrong. I apologize. You lost to Staten Island. You will play them twice. You've already beaten Brooklyn earlier this season. You've got that one coming back. Yeah, you do have to be a little bit careful here, but if you kind of split at the top and take care of business at the bottom, it's not too bad. It's that. I mean, that's kind of the key, as it were. And your one loss right now is to a team that isn't shockingly a loss.
Yeah, no, I mean, College of Staten Island is an outstanding team. I mean, they have Will Fonseca, who's a preseason All-American, is going to end up being an All-American. They won the ECAC last year, beating NYU in the final. I mean, and they have everybody back, Frankie Scittino. And Brooklyn, of course, with Lorenzo Williams and Exxon. I mean, these guys are as good as anybody in the country.
You talk about the Staten Island year where they didn't get in, they got kind of stuck with William Patterson, and nobody from the Atlantic got in that season. And you talk about the year Brooklyn had last year and couldn't get into the tournament as well. Obviously, it would be a disappointment and if an extra bid didn't get out there, and I can appreciate that. But if you're not the ones who are in the mix, you know this conference obviously very well. Is this a Brooklyn? Is this a Staten Island? If you guys can't be that one?
I mean, if we can't be that one, it's it's probably a 3-team race, 3.5-team race. I mean, College of Staten Island and Brooklyn, and of course Baruch. You just can't. Baruch is a perennial team that's in our top of our conference every year, and no matter what, they find a way to compete. So I would say those 3 teams, and then City College is just so improved this year. Capable. They already beat Staten Island at Staten Island for like the first time in 15 years. So I'd give any of those teams a good shot.
Talking to Steve Schulman here. Let's talk about your team coach, the Lehman Lightning. By the way, I love the Lightning part of this. Now, you guys just changed that. What was the mascot in the past?
It's over. About 15 years ago, they changed it. The Lehman Lancers.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Right when I got hired, so it's probably about 18 years. Because right when I got hired, a couple of years before that, they changed it to the Lightning. When our new facility was built, they changed it to the Lightning.
That long ago? Wow.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was much sooner than that. Whatever. Yeah. My brain's off. We figured that out earlier in the show. So clearly, it's not working. You